Hello there everyone, I'm sorry for my long non-uploading time. I was busy with my studies and trying to focus on a job, but now I'm a little bit free again with the only thing occupying my time being my studies and also my family. So yeah, the other thing being the main reason for my big hiatus was this video. I didn't want it to be half-assed and I wanted to make it with my own style, even if it meant sacrificing a lot of time since I like making videos that are a little bit too long, but not like long as in time, as in long as in like in research and in their effort, because it shows how much effort I put into these videos, and I like putting a lot of effort in my own stuff. So yeah, I did find a way to make these videos a little bit faster and more time consuming and also a bit better, but I'm not gonna be making them I'm not gonna be using this way in this video because I put a lot of work into it to the point that I really do not want to throw away the stuff that I did. So yeah, this video is gonna be a roller coaster of information, and yeah, I really do hope that you enjoy it because you genuinely don't know how much time I've poured into this video, and you will not know unless you know math. So yeah, without further thing to do or say, let us start. Now, first thing to note on is I'm not a Yu-Gi-Oh expert. I don't claim to be. This is just a Synchron deck that I've been using for quite some time, and I built it with the help of my friends, or I should say quote-unquote friends, because they basically kept cheering me on to make this so that they could bully me easily. And yeah, by the way, this is a joke. They actually did help me make this, and I'm truly thankful for their efforts, despite me being a total piece of shit and questioning everything that they told me to do. So yeah, this bullying me bit was an actual joke. It's not real, and I'm really thankful for what they did to me with all the help and stuff. So yeah. Now, the second thing to note on I would like to mention is that most of the clips that you will see and the audio that you will hear are old clips of the old version of this deck, which has Stardust Dragon, Clearwing Synchro Dragon, and Satellite Warrior. I'm still keeping those clips in the video just because these clips are irreplaceable in terms of how well they show the Synchro deck working. That's why they are staying. So yeah, I'm just telling you this just so you don't get confused when I mention those monsters. But don't worry, in the last few minutes of this video I'll be explaining how the deck should look like for you to copy it and also how to use it. And the third thing I would like to note on is there might be some cards that I will explain their usage in a wrong way, or some cards that you should have more in your deck, but I say don't put a lot of it. Point is, we may have some differing opinions when it comes to the numbers of each card or the usage of each card in this deck. So if you want to explain why I'm wrong, do it in a normal human way, please. I'm not gonna be fighting a boxing match in the comments. Like seriously, again, I'm not a Yu-Gi-Oh expert, so please do not slap me in the comments, for fuck's sake. And now, with my conscience beating this confession out of me, let's start with how this deck works. Now, this Synchron deck should be pretty self-explanatory. It's a Synchron deck that you Synchro summon with. Easy, right? Well, you're sort of wrong. The thing is, you need to Synchro summon a lot with this deck because without your Synchro monsters, you will be fucked. 90% of this deck is literally about Synchro summoning, and that's it. The rest of the 10% are just some spells and some cards that are a backup plan of some sort. So yeah, this Synchro deck's usage is like climbing a ladder. You need to start at the bottom in order to climb higher and eventually reach the top of the ladder. So yeah, now let's talk about the goal of this deck. Now, the goal of this deck, or the end board of this deck, is pretty simple. Set up a good board through Synchro summoning a lot. You don't just stop at shooting Quasar, you go beyond that, and that's it. Like, the end board of this deck should be more than just Quasar Dragon. That's it. So yeah, Synchro summon a lot and going beyond your limits and all that anime bullshit. So yeah. Now, before we start with the cards in the deck, there are two warnings that I have to tell you about, just so you have a chance at winning against someone who might have a stronger deck than you.
So yeah, first of all, read what your opponent puts on the field. Even if it's only a card with one word in it, read it. Trust me on this, any Yu-Gi-Oh expert will tell you and force you to read stuff so that you know what your enemy has in store for you and so that you can counter it. 7 times out of 10, if you don't read stuff, then you are fucked. The 3 out of 10 chances are if you know that deck and know how it works. But if you don't, then start reading so that you know what you should be summoning. The second thing you are forced to do with this deck is never rush with your synchro summoning, and don't slow down either. You got time and your enemy also has time, so don't waste both of your time. If you rush, then you will basically make a very grave mistake that will just force you to surrender. So yeah, mistakes are very easy to happen even if you are rushing or if you are not rushing. You are training with this deck after all and learning how to use it, but you should also know that you should never rush because these decks take time to master and also you need to know what you're doing. So if you start rushing, then you're easily gonna be making mistakes. So be cautious with what you're doing, otherwise you will fuck up easily. Now, this is the last thing I would like to note on before we start with the cards in the deck, and I promise that it is. Each card has similar usage to the others, but some of them need others to work best. Like, take Doppel Warrior for example, you need Junk Synchron for it to work the best. Like, Junk Synchron will bring out the best of Doppel Warrior, obviously, so yeah. Or take Cyber Synchron for example, you would most likely love to have it in the graveyard in order to save your Quasar Dragon or whatever monster you got in the extra zone. The extra zone is the zone that you put your link monsters in, but sometimes you would want to have it on the field in order to activate its effect of doubling the effect of some monster, further enabling you to synchro summon to other stuff or making your synchros cheaper. Or yeah, like so I don't really have anything else to say aside from those two. So yeah, with this note out of the way, let's start with all of the cards and how to use them perfectly, or how I see them fit. So our first card is Turbo Booster. Now Turbo Booster is more of a backup in case you don't have Doppel Warrior in your hand, or in case you want an extra level to summon that Clear Wing Synchro Dragon or that Trishua Ice Dragon, or maybe even the level 11 Trishua Ice Dragon. Whatever you need that requires an extra level, Turbo Booster has your back, and best of all, it can special summon itself from your hand when you have already normal summoned, and that effect is not limited to one turn, which is even better, so it will help you out a lot. You can even use it to synchro summon Celestial, which is really needed for Quasar. So yeah, I would recommend to have it at 2 so that you can have space for your main cards to be at 3. Now next up we got Jet Synchron, who is a really important card here because he is the main tuner monster that you will use to summon Celestial. Now why would you use Jet Synchron? The reason for that is you can search for one junk monster and add it to your hand from the deck, which can help out a lot in case you want to synchro summon further. Now you can bring Junk Converter or Junk Servant. Both are good choices, but picking which one depends on your situation. Like if you already use Junk Converter's effect or already have it in your graveyard, then bringing another one would be a waste since Celestial can also special summon from the graveyard. So yeah, unless you want another level 5 for summoning Quasar. That's the only situation I would rather have Junk Converter, but even then you already got the one in your graveyard. So yeah, pick Junk Servant if you already got a Junk Converter available to be picked up at any time from the graveyard or from the hand. So yeah, Junk Servant also can be used for some other stuff. So yeah, if you don't have Junk Converter, then bring it. If you don't have Junk Servant but have Junk Converter, then bring it. So yeah, it's really easy to memorize. As for the count, I would say have Jet Synchron at 2 because of 2 reasons, no pun intended. It's useless if you don't use Junk Speeder first, like you won't be able to bring out Quasar first turn and then further bring out other monsters without it. And second, you won't exactly need 3 of it since you need space for things like tuning or Junk Converter or even Junk Synchron, so that you can bring out Junk Synchron first turn and then bring out Junk Speeder, and then you know the drill. So yeah. Next up we got Cyber Synchron, who is a really useful card for his dynamic ways of being a backup for synchro summoning Junk Speeder in case you don't have Junk Synchron, by using his effect, which doubles the level of any level 4 or lower monster you got, and also having the other effect which make your synchro monster survive anything that would destroy it, whether it's from an effect or battle, as long as it's in the extra zone, again the zone that you put your link monsters in. So as for its count, I would say have it at a 2 because of the same reasons I stated for Jet Synchron. So yeah, it's a really useful card, but that's all what it can do, which is good. I wouldn't ask for more. So yeah. Now next up we will be talking about 3 cards together. You will know why once you hear me explain. So we got Side Reflector, Assault Warrior, and Assault Mode Activate. You need those 3 in the deck so that you can use the combo that works only with them. So yeah, thanks to my friend who showed me this very useful combo, it allows you to pretty much summon any synchro monsters that are between level 6 to 9. So it's a very good combo that I highly recommend using if you want to get a synchro monster out very fast with low amount of steps, and if you are running a synchro deck, or if you just want to summon a synchro monster that is between those levels that I just specified. So yeah, personally I would say have Side Reflector on 2 so that you can increase its chances of coming to you better, but don't have it at 3 because you don't really need it to be at 3. It's one of those only tuners that doesn't have a special thing with the rest of the deck, like you can summon it with Junk Speeder, or special summoning, or get it to your hand with tuning or anything like that. So yeah, it's really only usable if you got it in your hand or if you have 1-for-1 and you're bricked. So yeah, as for both Assault Warrior and Assault Mode Activate, have those 2 at a 1, a number count of 1, so that you can reduce the chances of breaking, since you really don't want to completely useless traps in your hand. That's for Assault Mode Activate only. And yes, I say that it's useless because you won't use it for anything else aside from the combo for synchro summoning. So yeah, as for Assault Warrior, it can be brought back from the graveyard anytime soon. So yeah, if you used one Side Reflector and you happen to get another one, then you can use it normally, as long as you got Assault Mode Activate in your hand, which you will, honestly. So yeah.
Next up we got Quillbolt Hedgehog, which is a card that has lots of uses. One being a really good level 2 monster to be used for your synchro summoning of any of your level 5 cards for quasar, or 2 being a, again, really good level 2 monster that can be used to synchro summon into anything that needs extra 2 levels, or you can use him as bait because most people, or not really most, some people will try to negate the summoning of a level 2 monster that would work really well for your combo, but the joke will be on them because that effect is not limited to 1 turn and you will be able to activate it again and laugh at your enemy at the same time because they have wasted one of their negates for literally nothing.
Next up we got Fleur Synchron, who is slightly useful but not completely because his effect only lets you special summon from the hand, also a level 2 or lower monster from the hand, which does help out a bit, but at the same time you would wish it's from the graveyard or both, and trust me, I do wish that sometimes, so it's got limited usage, but it will help out when you need it, since as I said, synchro summoning is like climbing a ladder. You need to keep a level 2 tuner on your field so that you can climb higher. So yeah, as for Fleur Synchron's number in your deck, I would say make it 2 because again, it's a good card but it's not exactly your best tuner, so its usage is limited, so that's why it's a 2. Next up we got Duel Warrior, who is one of your key elements in this deck because it's such a good card to the point it responds to most of your synchrons. It can be used with Cyber Synchron so that you can special summon Junk Speeder through doubling the effect of Duel Warrior since it's a level 2 monster. And it can be special summoned from your hand with Fleur Synchron's effect. You can also special summon it from the graveyard using Junk Synchron's effect, and it can also be special summoned from your hand if you use Junk Synchron's effect to special summon something else from the graveyard, and you can special summon from either your hand or your graveyard using Celestial's effect of targeting any level 2 monster that isn't a tuner. So yeah, it's basically the perfect card for synchro summoning Quasar, and also for going beyond that. And here's the lovely thing, its effect is not limited to one turn, so you can keep summoning those tokens forever, or until you run out of tuners, which is very likely to happen, or until you run out of stuff to synchro summon, which is also likely to happen. So yeah, that's why I have it at 3. It's a very important card to use for summoning a lot of stuff, and you need to have it in your graveyard or in your hand. Next up we got Caligo Cloud Crow. Now this card is useful because it can special summon itself from the hand, so that's another card that will get you to either Junk Speeder or a different level 5 so that you can special summon Quasar or something else. And that's it. For this card it's only at a 2 in here because I personally don't see it being at 3, since its effect can only be used once per turn, and this is where I might be wrong, so yeah, leave your opinion down in the comments. Next we got Psy Fraying Gear Gamma, who is a really good card to use so that you can special summon Stardust really fast at the start of the round in case your enemy decided to ash your max C or something. So yeah, it can help out a lot with telling the enemy no to their effects. The Psy Frame driver is at 1 to prevent the breaking, by the way, and also Gamma is at 2 because yeah, you need it at 2 so that it comes to you easily and then you can negate easily. So yeah. Now next up we got one of the most important cards in your deck, who I really shouldn't be explaining, but I will nonetheless for the synchro versions out there. So yeah, Junk Converter is your searcher. He does come at the cost of removing a tuner from your hand, but it's okay since it can revive that tuner from the graveyard, but that's only if you really want it. Some examples are like Synchron. It's an okay card, but personally it's not worth summoning unless you need to synchro summon for a specific monster. You'd mostly want to have Cyber Synchron so that you can have that destruction negating effect ready. You could also sacrifice a Junk Synchron to bring out another Junk Synchron and then special summon Junk Converter from the graveyard. So it really depends on your starting hand. And as for its number, any person who says it should be a 2 or god forbid a 1 is someone who has never touched a synchro deck at all in his life. So yeah, and that is what we call a synchro version. So yeah, give it a 3. Now after that we got Junk Synchron, who is just like Junk Converter. You need Junk Synchron a lot. He's basically the main card of the main deck. This card is what will make you your Junk Speeder like 60% of the time, and it's also what will make you your other stuff like Stardust Dragon or Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, or heck, maybe even Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and some other stuff too. So it's a really useful card that I highly recommend having at 3. Now next up we got Ash Blossom and Fuck Your Joy, or I should say its real name, Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, who is a really important card to have so that you can shove your ass in your enemy's face and suck their joy out of their soul. So it should be at 3 and always at 3 in this deck. Now lastly for the monsters we got Junk Servant. It's a really useful card that will help you out if you have a junk monster in your field, but aside from that it's basically just stuck in your hand waiting to get out. But since you will have a junk monster in your field like 60% of the time, I say it's an okay card to have. And as for the number, personally I do think it should be at 1 since you won't use it more than once, and that is to special summon something like a Clear Wing or something else, but that can be up for debate. Our first spell is Raigeki, who is really useful for wiping out the enemy monsters. It doesn't need any requirements, it doesn't need any bullshit, it doesn't need anything from you, it just wipes out stuff. You put it on the field and it wipes out stuff, and that's it. After that we got the Harpy Feather Duster, who is basically just like Raigeki. It's a spell card that wipes out stuff from the field, but only spells and traps, which again is really useful. After that, we got Monster Reborn, which is really good and useful for synchro summoning stuff. Or if you just want to bring back a synchro monster that you lost, but be careful, you can bring just any synchro monster. There are some monsters that can be brought back and some that just aren't summonable by Monster Reborn. And before you ask, no, you cannot bring Quasar Dragon with it. Next, we got Foolish Burial, who is a really useful card to use so that you can send either Junk Converter or Doppel Warrior or even Quillbolt Hedgehog to your graveyard. But sending which monster depends on your starting hand. Like if you got Doppel Warrior in your hand, then send Junk Converter or Quillbolt Hedgehog. If you got something that's not Doppel Warrior, then send Doppel Warrior. It really depends on your hand. And what you need for Quillbolt, if you have both Doppel Warrior and Junk Converter, then send off Quillbolt. And if you can, try to send Junk Converter too. Then you have 4 monsters that are very good materials for synchro summoning, so use them widely. Next up, we got Reinforcement of the Army, which is a really good card to bring either Junk Synchron or Doppel Warrior to your hand, in case you don't have a Junk Converter, or in case you sent it to the graveyard deliberately so that you can start a big combo of some sort. Next, we got Pot of Avarice, who is a really useful card for getting back your monsters to your deck really quickly in case they got destroyed and you want to summon them back. I would personally have this card on 1 because you need space for other stuff like tuning and of course your hand traps. So yeah, it's a really useful card, but you don't really have space for another one. Next up, we got 1 for 1, which is a really useful card so that you can get things like Turbo Booster or Cyber Synchron. I wouldn't really use it on Jets since you will most likely use it so that you can bring something to summon Junk Speeder, or at least those were the situations I was put in with this card. So yeah, you can also use it to special summon Side Reflector. That can also work. But if you have Assault Mode activated in your hand, then it's really not recommended. And lastly, we got our last card in this deck, which is also our main spell card, surprisingly, which is called Tuning. It's a really good card that is pretty self-explanatory. It brings you any Synchron tuner to your hand and discard the top card of your deck to the graveyard. Now, it's a double-edged sword, yes, because it can discard a spell card or it can discard a monster that you can special summon using Junk Synchron's effect, but it can also discard things like Doppel Warrior or Bolt Hedgehog. So it's pretty useful, and I would say have it on 3 because it's your main searching spell. So you really need it at 3, but you also need some luck to use it. So yeah. Now starting with our first monster in the extra deck, we got our main tuner, Celestial Double Star Shaman, who not only is your second most important card in your extra deck, it's also one of the most useful monsters for synchro summoning, because not only does it allow you to synchro summon into Quasar, it also helps you to make its materials by letting you special summon up to 4 level 2 monsters that are not tuners from either your hand or your graveyard, which is really useful. So you can special summon things like Quillbolt or Doppel Warrior or Maxi or Calico Crow or even Junk Converter. So it's a really useful card for synchro summoning stuff. After that, we got Martial Metal Marcher, who is a really useful card, a semi-useful I should say, for its ability to be a really easy to reach synchro monster and also for being able to pretty much revive any tuner in your graveyard, so that you can pretty much use 1 Celestial plus 1 level 1 monster to summon Metal Marcher and then get back Celestial again. So yeah, it's a really useful card. The only downside is that its effect of making the synchro monster summoned using it will become a tuner. That's a bad effect since it halts your ability to synchro summon more with an extra tuner on your field, but it's not the biggest deal. You can get around it sometimes if you play your cards right. So yeah, it's a semi-useful card, but it has its downsides a bit. After that, we got Armory Arm, who is more or less just a card that you use to climb to level 5 or higher. But it can be used for this effect. I just haven't done that personally yet. Next up we got Junk Warrior, who will be your main level 5 for summoning Quasar. I mean the second level 5 monster. Your main second level 5 monster to summon Quasar. That is if you summoned Celestial first after Junk Speeder. If you didn't, then you will be using Hyper Librarian, so that you can benefit from its effect. And speaking of Hyper Librarian, next up we got TG Hyper Librarian, who is really useful for his ability to make you draw one card every time you Synchro Summon. It's a really good effect that will help you out a lot if you are really lucky with draws, which I'm not. You can get away with summoning 2 cards using TG Hyper Librarian's effect if you summon it first and then summon Celestial and then decide to summon Martial Metal Marcher for other Synchro summons. So you can get around with making it have you draw 2 cards, which is useful. So yeah, 2 draws are better than nothing. And after that we got, of course, our main card that carries this entire deck, Junk Speeder, who you have to use, otherwise you will not be able to get far with this deck, or even with Synchro summoning using this deck. So yeah, you need to make sure this guy doesn't get negated, otherwise you are semi-fucked, because you can still come back by summoning other stuff, but you mostly don't want to have this guy negate. Next up we got Stardust Charge Warrior, who is pretty much like Armory Arm, except his effect of drawing one card is very nice and can help out from time to time, but other than that he's just another step in the ladder that you won't really get to use much except for rare occasions, just like Armory Arm. Next we have Shiranui Square Saga. Now this card is a bit tricky to use, and even though you can very much argue that most people with meta decks have not targeting destruction immune cards, you can still use this card to destroy their traps or other cards that put them at an advantage over you, and leave the big stuff to the big boys like Quasar or Crystal Wing. Also, just make sure to know what you need to destroy before you start banishing, otherwise you might banish the wrong card. Next up we got the evolved version of Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, and that is Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is a bit nerfed, but it does make up for having the double negate removed by being able to increase its attack if it attacks a level 5 or higher monster, so that is a bit useful. Next up we got Crystron Phoenix. Now, this card is more of a backup that you will very rarely use, but when you do, it will serve you good, because there are some decks that depend on spells and traps to do good, and some of them also do depend on spells and traps, and also have these spells and traps be in their graveyard just so that they can come back again. And even though you can argue that this card is a little bit hard to summon, after you have also seen the other cards in the deck, you can argue that the enemy will try to negate you while trying to summon this card, and to that I say good, because that will be a free win for them. But jokes aside, if the enemy does depend on spells and traps, then this card will be the answer for you, and if they try to negate that, then have a backup plan, I guess. I mean, like, I don't really know what to tell you, honestly. Next up we start with the big boys, and our first big boy we got Trishua, the Ice Barrier, who does destroy one of your enemy's plays by banishing 3 cards, one from their field, one from their graveyard, and one from their hand. The hand one is chosen at random though, so it can do some pretty good stuff, and it can negate some really good plays. I don't mean negate as in negate the effect, I mean like stop their plays.
Next up we got Virtual World QB Shenshin, and Shenshin indeed, because this card will slash your enemy like a fucking pickle. This card is part of your end board, and to get the most out of it, you need to have it be the last synchro monster to summon in your end board, so that you don't end up banishing any of your monsters. The goal with this card is to hinder the enemy's movements as much as possible. If you can summon Quasar but you are able to summon this guy, go ahead and do it. This card alone can win you some games, because not everyone has an outweight, and also this card can help you provide some more combos to yourself. Like, it can bring back Quillbolt Hedgehog from being banished, because it does get banished when you get it out of the graveyard if there's a tuner on the field. And you can also bring stuff like the Synchron, Cyber Synchron to help you with the protection and stuff like that. So yeah, this card really does help out with backing up your monsters so that you can do some more combos. Next up we got Baronne de Fleur, who is the other endboard monster that you will be using. As for the card itself, it has some pros and cons to it. The pros is that it can destroy one card on the field, which can help out with your OTK combo. And it can also resurrect one of your level 9 or lower monsters in your graveyard. So if your enemy destroyed your QB early game and you don't have cards to get it back, you can summon or use this card and get your QB back. The cons with this card is that it only has one negate. And I know you'll be telling me, well, Quasar also has one negate. What I mean by one negate is that this card has only one negate, like once. You can use this negate once and you can't use it again. It's not once per duel, but like as a card literally stands once while face up on the field. So yeah, I guess you will need to resummon it again or something, but yeah, I don't really know how it works, but yeah, you can't use that negate again, and if that negate gets negated, no pun intended, you just had that negate wasted, like, yeah. So choose wisely how you will use it, because you really do not want to have Quasar being your only negate on field, since your enemy can bait you.
Next up we got the Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier, who is really useful. It's more of a scuffed version of the previous one by letting you banish 3 cards on the field only, but that is also still really useful because if it gets destroyed, it summons the other Trishua Ice Barrier, the level 9 one, which is really good, and it also increases its attack by a bit and lets you negate the effect of one monster on the field, or the monster that destroyed it, and also halve its attack like that. So yeah, that is very insane. And we finally get to our final card, who is also the boss monster of this deck, which is Shooting Quasar Dragon. It's a really useful card for the negate effect and also the double attack that you get when you synchro summon it. So it's really useful, and that's it for it. So this is the deck and how it's supposed to look like. This is after many edits and talks with lots of people about their opinions and all that. Now, in my opinion, if you're gonna be adding something like a third Ash Blossom, which I really recommend you do, by the way, then put it over the second Caligo Cloud Pro, since you won't really need 2 of it. You can only use one once per turn, and you might not even live or need to use the second one. At least I haven't, personally. So yeah, by the way, I'm keeping that Max C in the deck because it's really useful to get out a fast junk speeder first turn in case I don't have a Doppel Warrior in my graveyard or a junk converter in my hand, and also have no way to get it into the graveyard. So yeah, there are other ways to put either Doppel Warrior or junk converter to the graveyard, but sadly the card that I'm talking about is banned, and that card is Painful Decision, which is a card that would be extremely OP for this deck. So yeah, and by the way, if you're gonna be using Psy Frame Gear Gamma, then it's okay to have the deck at 41. No need to remove Caligo Cloud Pro for a normal monster. So yeah, and now let's talk about some other cards that you might be interested in using. The first card we'll be talking about is Emergency Teleport. This card can be used to bring out Side Reflector in case you need it badly, and it can also help to improve your combos even further. So yeah, if you're gonna edit, then remove the Max C and 1 Caligo Cloud Pro, but then again, this is just my opinion, so remove whatever cards you want. Next up we got Herald of the Arc Light, which is a card that will increase the toxicness of your deck to like extreme levels by completely locking down the enemy and only making them able to counter you by simply using spells or stuff in their hand to destroy your combo. Only reason I'm not using it is because I'm not a piece of shit yet. So yeah, if you're gonna use this card, then put it over Armory Arm. And the last card we got is Crystron I really don't know how to spell it. So you got the card in front of you. This card is very good for banishing stuff, and I would say to put it over the other Crystron monster. I personally haven't been using it yet because I don't have it crafted, and also because I already got the Trishua monster for banishing. So yeah, but I could see myself using it in the future since the Crystron Phoenix card is extremely rare to use. So yeah, but that doesn't mean the Crystron Phoenix card is garbage. It's just, yeah, you won't really wait for the chance to use it. So yeah, better have another card that is more often usable. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you actually stayed until the end of this video, then I genuinely thank you from the bottom of my heart. This video is pretty much the longest video I've ever had to work on. Like, none of the Realized videos come close to this, or any of my other videos actually. So yeah, it was really painful to work on this video, and as I said in the beginning of this video, I have other ways that will make me do Yu-Gi-Oh videos faster and also as good as this one. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please share it with some of your friends in case they are interested and want to know how to play a synchro deck. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, hit those bells so that you don't miss any video. And yeah, and if you are watching this video, then I probably have made a Twitch channel. So yeah, I'll be using that channel to further promote my YouTube channel, and also to have some more fun. So yeah, there is no schedule yet. Like, I don't really know when I will be streaming or what I will be streaming. I will usually just be streaming whenever I can because of my studies, and I will usually just be streaming maybe Yu-Gi-Oh or something else that I want to play. So yeah, it's not really gonna be something for attention yet. Like, it will be, yeah, for attention, but it will also be for having fun and hanging out with people. So yeah, if you wanna join it, I will leave the link in the description. And yeah, thank you all for watching again, and I'll see you all later. And yeah, tell me what other decks you want me to talk about in the comments, and I will be making another version of the synchro deck later on in the future. Not anywhere, not anytime close, but I'll see. Whenever I want to make it, I will make it when new support releases and all that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching again. This is the third time I'm saying it, and bye.